I was wrong. I was wrong about Wheeler. I don't mind admitting when I'm wrong about something, although I don't like it and I'm not proud of it, but I am wrong about Wheeler Lake. I think. Okay? So, hear me out. I'm actually having to do this back at my house because my shop, I'm doing a little maintenance on my shop right now. Or today, I had a limb come through the roof and I'm working on some stuff. So, anyways, I'm gonna get that. I wanted to get this video done to where I can get the rest of that done. We're gonna have a couple videos about Wheeler. I think tomorrow's video. I'm hoping I can get this done. I'm gonna talk to you all a little bit about like the map study on Wheeler and what I think about. Now, there's a couple things I want to talk about when we discuss Wheeler Lake. It is known as it's known as the worst lake, right, of the TVA to a degree. I fished Gunnersville twice. Gunnersville's pretty awesome, I'll admit. Kentucky Lake. Obviously I've made a top 10 in the championships at all three of these lakes: Pickwick, Gunnersville, and what am I missing? Kentucky Lake. Okay. I also fished Lake Wilson Lake, in the All-American, and I think I came in fourth. And I've done really good at Kentucky Lake at different times of the year in Toyotas. I've never like put a 3-day. I did it in the championship, but like I've had some big days at Kentucky Lake, fishing deep and shallow. I think I've been to Gunnersville twice, Pickwick twice, Wilson kind of twice, and then been to Chickamauga once. Did horrible. That was for the tour. Did horrible on day one, and like smoked on the biggest bag on day two. Here's a video of it. If y'all haven't seen that, I made a video of it like a couple months ago. So here it is right here. Wheeler Lake I've been to one time for a championship. Didn't really like it. The weights were horrible. Whatever. I came back this year thinking, okay, I'm gonna figure this out. I'm gonna put my time in what I think is the right thing to do. And a lot of it was on Decatur Flats, is what I thought. And you got to realize it, because when you do these videos and when I say things, I see by the comments that the comments don't reflect what I'm thinking. And so I'm going to do my best job to explain what I mean when I say certain things. Okay? I made a comment that I didn't think Wheeler Lake was a pattern lake. It's more of a spot lake. I still stand by that, and I totally stand by that. Even how I caught fish, like every single fish I caught on day two that I posted up there the other day, I literally got bit. Like when I was catching those fish one after another, that was literally right where the only place I got bit in that whole little area to a degree. And then I caught another one on a topwater. It's right where I got bit in practice, like literally same cast off this one little point. And then there was a stretch that I had a bite on day one of practice. I caught a smallmouth there. And then I flipped up one out of a boat dock or a boat stall marina little deal that had like, I don't know, 20 something stalls on it. I literally got bit on the same pole. Went through all those poles in practice, never had a bite except on that one pole, got bit on that one pole. Every time I got bit somewhere, it felt so much like it was a cast in a spot, and that I could run 20 other places that looked like that and it didn't matter. Okay? Now, someone had mentioned, if you go run wood on flats, it's a pattern, and I'm like, I understand what you're saying, and I get that. What I'm saying is that when I look at patterns, I'm looking maybe way more in depth, way more detailed oriented. Not going, oh, they're on wood up and down the river, right? Well, they kind of have to be on wood up and down the river. There's almost nothing else for them to be on. It's it's putting in. It'd be more like this. If I would consider a pattern so much more detailed of, hey, if you're on that flat with wood, obviously there's going to be fish on it. There's always fish on wood on flats. But say you get to like, you can almost call your shot of what wood and where and what depth and why it's this, and like I could show you like 10 different reasons why this piece of wood is good, and why I can go up to another flat and be like, that, like those 3 pieces of wood should be better than everything else. And also I'm looking at it as, just because I can catch a fish, like I can catch a fish up and down that river doing some things. I went and tried it a little bit. It didn't, I mean, yeah, you can catch some fish, but I wasn't looking to just catch fish. It's why I didn't do what I did on day 2, because I was like, that's what I thought I could catch. Or maybe I thought I could catch maybe 10 to 12 pounds. But it's not what I thought I could go win. And so I thought I could win on finding areas or spots or things to go off of on Decatur Flats. Now, when I'm calling Decatur Flats, this is what I want to be clear about, is from that bridge, and I don't know what these bridges are called, but there's only there's 2 bridges right next to each other, right? There's a marina in between those 2 bridges. And then I guess it's north, but towards Wilson Dam, those giant flats. It's the biggest flats in the lake, and they go all the way past the power lines and everything else like that. What is that, 4, 5, 6 miles? I don't know how long it is. And then it's like 2 miles at least or something towards the bank, and that's all flats. What I realized is this. Now, there's other flats also. There's flats north and south of that, on the other side, all kinds of different things. I get all that. They had that junky grass there that I think is horrible. I think there's hydrilla. I know there's hydrilla in there. I couldn't find it. I see it floating around. I know there's probably be the patches of it, and it's probably phenomenal. If you can find it. I think some guys did. Whether they found it or was kind of told about it, doesn't really matter to me. I'm not saying anyone was told about it, but it was very hard to find. It's very hard to find because I don't think you could see it. And not that you had to get lucky to kind of run across it. I think you kind of did. I think it would be very hard to find just. I don't think you could find it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe someone would be like, oh, you can find it by doing something other than fishing. I usually find all my stuff, especially on Rayburn and all these places, in the grass. I find it all by fishing, rarely by idling it, really by doing a bunch of things. Like I just fish a lot. I fish a whole bunch, cover a whole bunch of water, and figure out the pattern within the grass. I think this was very hard to do with the crappy grass that they had, and that there wasn't much hydrilla. I know there's hydrilla because it was floating around. We all talked about that like we would all see it and we're like, golly, where is it? Now it might be stuck in that other grass and you couldn't see it or feel it because that other grass is there, but either way, that's what I'm talking about. So what I saw with Pickwick, Chickamauga, Kentucky Lake, all these places, Gunnersville, this is what I had a realization on the way home for like 9 hours and over the past couple of days. Like I learned a lot from these lakes. I want to go back to Wheeler, and here's why. And maybe I'm wrong. This is just my thought. Maybe everyone from Wheeler like comes at me and like, you're wrong. I could be. This is my thought. When I go to all those other lakes and I start fishing those lakes, I see it. Like I can visually see a lot of times that this is where I'm going to get bit. Or like, this looks good. Like this looks good to me. I should get bit here. Whether it's going down the bank, whether it's fishing grass, whether it's deep, whether it's shallow bars, whether it's boat docks, whatever it is, all those places made sense and I could see it and run with it and you could get bit. Now, I don't know about this, but we also have a lake. We have some lakes around Texas that they're great middle of the week lakes. And what I mean by that is you go out there in the middle of the week and there's no one on those lakes. every little, Texoma was one of those. It used to be like every twig, everything you see sticking out of the water, you flip by it, you do whatever, there's a fish on it. Now, come the weekend, and after people have been practicing, you can't catch fish off those things anymore. But if you just went during the middle of the week on a Wednesday and no one's been out there, every one of these little places that like, I should have a fish on it, they have fish on it. It's like, you're like, this looks phenomenal. You get there in a tournament, it gets tough. Okay. I don't know, because I didn't get to be on Wheeler. When I was on Wheeler, the first day I was there was the Saturday. That was the day we got to practice. The ABT 100 was going on. So you already had that, and other tournaments were going on. So they were already in, all of us were practicing. There's over 300 boats on the water, or 400, who knows. So everything had already been hit and stuff like that. So getting a bite on those days, was tough. And then we were there the whole rest of the week. 200 boats were out there practicing. So most of those things that you might have been able to catch fish on that made sense, right? Who knows if that was the case of pressure of us or whatever, and there were fish on them, that's why you didn't get bit. I don't know that. So I'm going to say I don't know. Maybe Wheeler is like that if you go to some of these places that look so obvious during the middle of the week, you would get bit. What I would say this about Wheeler, I misjudged Wheeler in the sense of, I think Wheeler's really good. I think it's very difficult and a very unique fishery, in the sense of, while so many lakes have those places that look good and that's what you should get bit off of, I think Wheeler's the opposite. I think the worse it looks sometimes, the better it might be on Wheeler. And I miss that. Now, I'm really good about fishing some junky looking stuff, some bad look, like disregarding the obvious, because I fish tournaments so much that it's a flaw of mine too, where I'll fish really off the wall stuff because I don't think anyone else is fishing it. I try some of that. I so many times bypass like the most obvious, best, good looking stuff, like the most obvious point on the lake, or this bridge, or this thing over here, and I see people fish, and I'm like, that's why I'm not fishing it. 20 guys have stopped on that today. And then all of a sudden, some guys in the top 10 fishing that same thing. And I'm like, God, you got to be kidding me. Yeah, I mean, it frustrates me to no end. That's just how I fish. I like to find stuff off the beaten path and different things. I missed off the beaten path. The co-angler who won is a buddy of mine. He won the whole thing. I talked to him yesterday, and like I said, I never get on here. I don't think it's right. I never get on here and share other people's stuff. And so I'm not going to go into the guys he fished with and what they did, right? I never think that that's right. I will share my stuff, not anyone else's. I talked to him about what he did on some of the days, and I was just shocked. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh my gosh, it made sense to me now, but man, he didn't have anyone around him. And I was going, oh, and then I started looking and thinking about how that lake sets up and why I wasn't catching fish. And I will say this, I have learned on some of these lakes, I took into the account that like Wheeler's not a good lake. It is a good lake. Dude, like guys were catching 20 pounds. It's a good lake. It's got them in it. Now, it might not be Gunnersville Lake, but it does have fish in it. And what I've learned about some of these places, and this is like maybe the biggest tip in the entire video, and it sounds so simple. Man, sometimes the things that are so simple, like are sitting right in front of your face, and you miss it. If you're not getting bit, I know this is going to sound like duh, but if you're not getting bit, you're not catching them, and you're on a decent lake, whatever you're doing is wrong. Like your whole thought process is wrong. My whole thought process for that, like now I did catch them in practice on day 3. And I did figure out how to get some bites and doing some things. I was, I think I was trying to catch fish that were really, really hard, and in really like, and I've seen this on Rayburn before, in other lakes I've been to. I've heard guys and they have to like fight really hard. I've done this on Rayburn, where like I figure out a way to catch them, and it's so detailed and so specific, and it's like you're almost like having to do all these like be perfect to catch these fish. And then some dude over there is just like just just catching them, and you're like, God, that was an easy pattern. Like that was so easy. And it could be as simple as like you're over there with the Nico rig and you're like trying to hit the edge of the grass or something like this, and you're trying to like work it down the current to like make it come by this stump at the right angle. And then this other guy is like throwing an Alabama rig over there, just like winding it by the same stump, and just smash, you know, like they're just he's catching them, and you're over there trying to catch them on a spinning rod, right? Things like that happen where some guy just figures out and so much of an easier presentation, an easier way to catch them, an easier area. While you're over here, you figured out how to get bites, but you're having to like really, really get down dirty with them, right? You're having to be so specific just to get one bite, and he's over there catching like 4-1, do you? And you missed it, right? The mentality's not there. It's different. That's what happened on Wheeler with I think a lot of guys, and I now realize that there's a lot of fish in that lake. I just think they they did different things. They're at some not good looking stuff. Now maybe this is just this time of the year, right? Regardless, that's all I'm talking about. This time of the year, they're obviously on the obvious stuff here and there, but that gets hit. But I think there's some fish just being totally left alone. And so I think those are the ones that were available to catch that I'm not saying that a lot of guys didn't catch. I think some guys figured it out, no doubt. I didn't. I didn't figure it out. And that's why everyone, when we were all talking on the way home and stuff like that, I was like, I want to go back. I want to go back. I didn't think I'd want, like, if they could have one on Gunnersville or what, I'd pick Wheeler. I do. That's just how I am. I want to go back there. So, yeah, I'm just going to say is that I think Wheeler has a lot to offer. I really do. I just think sometimes all the obvious stuff, I just don't think they're on. And I think you have to figure out the unobvious stuff. And I think once you do, and whether that's fishing shallower than everyone else, getting away from the grass, getting away from the current, getting away from stuff that just doesn't even look good, and like, why am I even fishing this stuff? Fishing shallower, fishing deeper, maybe shallower on the flats, deeper closer to the dam, things like that. I think there's some ways. I think there's some different ways to catch them. I can't sit here and go tell you exactly how all of it should be done, but talking to some guys, when I say we're catching easier fish, I make a living off of fishing for easier fish. Like that's what I want to go after. That's not a knock on anything. Like that's like I'm pissed I didn't find that. Kudos to the guys that did, right? And so yeah, that's what I wanted to say about Wheeler Lake. I was wrong. I said it wasn't a good lake. I think it is a good lake. I think it is. I just think you have to. I think it fishes different than the other ones, and I think a lot of people struggle on it because of that, and maybe they don't like it as much. But yeah, I could see for tournament fishing it, maybe not. I don't know. I have to see more of it, but it could be a lake I like to fish because yeah, maybe it's not as good, but maybe you can win more money fishing that way. And sometimes I look at lakes like that. Like that's why I love Texoma so much. It's not better than Rayburn, but I love fishing tournaments on Texoma. There's certain lakes I love fishing tournaments on. They're not better, but they're better fishing tournaments. They're fun. They're fun fishing once you figure it out. Took me a lot of years to figure out Texoma. Still haven't figured it out all the way, but I look at Texoma differently than I did the first 5 years. I think I would look at Wheeler differently, 100% different now than what I viewed it before. So I don't know if that helps, but hopefully it does. If you get out there, or any of your lakes you go to, like if you're struggling on a lake, you got to look at that lake and go, okay, I got to look at that totally different. Stick around for tomorrow. We're going to kind of go over some map stuff. I'm going to show you some different map stuff and some things like that. All right. See you guys.